What is a CV? It's a personal marketing document. So it is the document in which you sell yourself as a prospective to the prospective employers. Okay, so you tell here about all the positive things about you. You talk about your experience, your history, your skills, your abilities and achievements. Okay, this is the way. This is the document that tells the employers that you are the guy, that you are the one they are looking for, that you are the person they need to hire. Okay? This is so important. This is the importance of writing a CV properly. So, in this seminar, I will try to include all the information that is necessary, just the necessary, because as you see, employers read lots of CVs during the day, so it's necessary or it's important to include just the necessary things they want. All right? Let's continue. What information to include? Let's go back again with this. Uh, the first part here is your personal information, which is your name, your professional title, and contact details. All right? As their forename or your first name and surname, just one name and surname, your professional title here. The location, you can explain your town, your country, your phone number, and your email address. In case you have a LinkedIn profile, you should include it there too. It's so important, so important these days. As I was saying, and unfortunately you couldn't hear, mostly employers look for people through this through LinkedIn. It's such an important tool nowadays. You have to be updated with this because it's like Facebook for professionals. So if you want to get good jobs, you should have your profile updated all the time. Try to check it every other day so you can have an idea. Okay? This is very important. Uh, Something else I mentioned before was that when you use an email, when you include an email address, it is necessary that it is serious. It is a serious one. I said before that when I used to be a coordinator and I was checking email addresses, they were not so serious. For example, catlover at gmail.com, for example, that's not serious at all. So what you have to include there is a very serious email address, so you look like a real professional. If you mention those kinds of emails which are not appropriate, simply they will discard you, or you won't participate in the process. Okay, as I say here, CVs with unprofessional email addresses are ignored. So let's remember that, which is very important. Okay. Uh, I wrote an example about myself in this case. Something else I forgot to mention. That I was doing some research here, and some pages, some experts mentioned that you only should include the address, the city or the district. However, some other experts say that it's necessary to include your address. So it will depend on you. It's not a problem if you include your full address. You can include your full address, uh, or you can just mention the district where you live. Okay. I put here my email address, which is a serious one. I didn't put any nicknames or any other things which are not appropriate if you're looking for a job. So it's necessary to keep it formal, right? And I include my LinkedIn profile as an example because this is how people contact you in different places. Nowadays, it's very important to have your profile updated. Okay. Now let's continue with the rest of the of this, with the following slide. Now here, after we give our personal information, all our details about contact details and all those things, we need to start including our personal profile. I tried to divide this and to explain this using 3 questions. We need to write a paragraph in which we answer these 3 important questions. Okay? Let's see. The first one is, who are you? The second question is, what can you offer to the company? And the third one is, what are your career goals? Okay. Something, well, I don't know if it's necessary to mention, but just in case, when we talk about career, we are referring to our professional developments. Okay. It's very important that we have this clear. Uh, as I wrote here, this small paragraph displays who you are, your skills and strengths relevant to the sector or job role and your career goals. Approximately, they say 4 sentences that you have to include. Okay? So I will show you an example where, and I put some colors in it describing each of the questions. Okay? So let's remember one more time. Who are you? What can you offer to the company? And what are your career goals? So you have to keep that in mind if you want to write a personal profile before writing a CV. Okay? Let's see. I wrote an example here about I got this. A highly skilled. Who are you? The first question is who are you, right? A highly skilled mechanical engineer looking to resume a position in industrial construction. Extremely knowledgeable with 7 years industry experience. So this is who I am. I'm train. I'm explaining in a few words who I am. Okay. The second question was, what can I offer? Right? What can I offer? I possess a wide skill set, including condition-based maintenance through working on automated system on large-scale building projects. This is all. This is refers to my skills, to my abilities, to my knowledge, to what I can offer to the company. So depending on what they're looking for, I mention who I am, I mention what I can do to them, how I can be helpful for them, how I can be uh, of utility to the company, and finally, what are my career objects? My career objects to reestablish a career in a progressive organization which requires engineering expertise after a short career break to take care of a newborn. So in this case, the person is explaining that he had that he due to uh, you know having a kid or something, he had to stop working for a while. He had like maybe a gap period or sabbatics period. So what he's trying to do here is to resume a job position. Mhm. So as we said before, here we are trying to talk examples. The example that mentions who you are, you describe your professional aspect, uh, and what is the objective of your what is your objective here. Then you describe your skills, your abilities, the the things you could offer to the company, the asset you can be for the company, and finally, what are your career goals. Okay. This takes maybe some time, and it will depend on the company that you are applying to. That's why you have to shape your CV. Sometimes you have some skills which are not exactly what they need, but you can adapt your knowledge to what they really want. So it's important that you mention this depending on the offer that is proposed. Okay, so maybe you have the qualifications and the experience, but you don't know how to write them. So it's necessary for you to take your time before you do this part. Okay, everything depends on the way you write it. It will sell itself. Okay, so let's continue. After that, well, we had first the personal information and contact information. Then you have your personal profile, which refers to your work experience. Now we're talking about your employment history. Your employment history. In this case, it's important that you list your experience in reverse chronological order. So you start with the most recent and then you continue going down. Okay, so you have to mention the last place you worked in. You worked in, and you have to also explain your role, what you did there. You should start the month, the year, and the year you started, and the month and the year that you finished, where it was located, the company name, and the role you had. So you can mention in a general way what you were performing, were your responsibilities, what you were doing, what was your role there. Then you can explain what were your responsibilities, what you have people you were people were in charge, you were in charge of how many people you let's say you what were your the achievements you got, what were the projects you did there. All this information has to be included there according to every place where you worked. Always try to write it in a very positive way. Sometimes it's hard for us to tell our goals or to tell what we achieved, but remember that this will depend. This depends on what you did. Depending on what you did, you will get you will be called by the employers. So it's necessary that you mention all the positive things you said and you did there. Okay, it's quite important to do that. Now, here, well, that's it online. So I got some examples here that we can take. For example, I put here April to 2012 until July 2018. I put an example, Cambridge, England, Cambridge University, English professor. Okay. What I put here is in a general way what was the position and what were some of the duties. I put here professor in charge of preparing foreign students in order to be able to attend college lectures without difficulties during their academic experience. So in this case, he's trying to describe in a general way how students that he was in charge of helping students with their English in order to be able to attend lectures without having problems with the language, especially, because academic lectures are so different to usual language, to everyday language. So this was the objective here. Uh, some of the achievements mentioned here is that students' progress highly increased during the years this person was in charge of the department. Okay, so that is something important that you have to include here when you are performing as when you are describing your job. It is quite important to mention uh, what you did, what were your achievements, what were the projects you obtained, what were the goals you obtained, all the things that you believe are going to help you. You have to include them there. It's quite important to uh, highlight all those achievements that happened when you were in that position. The same with all your experience has to be the same way. You have to include the month, the year, the place, and the country, the position, and the functions you had, and also all what you obtained, all what you reached in that position. Okay, let's move to our next slide, which has to do with education and qualifications. Here, it's important to include the name of the institutions and the dates you were there. If you studied in a university or a college, you have to include the dates and the institutions, followed by the qualifications and grades you achieved. An example here is the institution name, the dates you attended, from what time to what time, the qualification, and the subject and the grade you obtained. Okay? So, as I said before, the name, the dates you were, the qualifications and grades you achieved. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to show you one example, one more example here. As the same as we do with our work experience, with our professional experience, we should do it with our education and qualifications. For example, I'm including here, I just got this example from, and we have Pennsylvania University, March 1996, August 2002, a PhD, a philosophy doctorate, which is those are the acronyms for PhD, philosophy doctorate in infectious disease, and uh, the pre the previous experience he had is Oxford University, September 1990 to July 1995, and Bachelor of Arts or Sciences. You can say Arts or Sciences. So the PhD is like the specialization, all the courses he did in order to become a doctor in this area. Mm-hmm. This is more or less what we should include when we refer to our education. The name of the place where we study, the time we spend there, the grade or the degree we obtained, and the specialty if we had one, or the major if we have one. Okay, I got one example here, which refers to uh, professionals that are a little farther along their careers or have many certificates in the repertoire. You can lay your qualifications by mentioning, for example, a second specialization or a master's degree or another course or a diploma course or another certificate, another specialization, the institution and the year in which you uh, described, in which you obtain this specialization. Okay, this is important because as not all of the courses we do or all what we study end up in a degree. We should also include the information we also with the other courses or specializations we do. Okay, this is of vital importance when we do extra courses or specializations. Okay, so some other important things that we need to take into account here when writing a uh, when writing this sort of a of CV is I don't know if you have heard about a cover letter, which is another way to present yourself. It has a little bit more elaboration, but for now this is just a part of what we are doing. So this is the first step. Some things that we can mention here. Another thing that is not mentioned here is the date of birth. And I didn't mention it because it is a little it depends on the country you are. For example, in the United States, it's not necessary, but in the UK, it is necessary. So it depending on the policies or the countries you're working or you're applying to, that you have to be changing some aspects. Okay. Another thing is that they don't post a picture because it is considered that there might be some way of racism, or there could be some sort of there wouldn't be an objective selection if they only choose a person just by seeing their picture. So that's why they prefer not to include it on a CV. Okay, this is conference. So one more time, with CVs as personal marketing document used to subtract employees. I already mentioned that like once or twice. What information we should include here? For example, we say your name, your professional title, the location, the phone, and the email. As one more time, remember that it has to be a formal email. And if you have a LinkedIn profile, it has to be updated so you can include it. Right? Next, we were mentioning, I put here my information. Uh, as again the personal profile, who you are, what can you offer to the company, and what are your goals. Once more, I repeat that it has to be depending on the company you're applying to. These things may change, so you have to try to adapt it every time you look for another company. I mentioned an example here because he was looking for a specific position in industrial construction. He mentioned his experience and what was his goal. He mentioned in this case that he was taking care of his kids, so he wanted to resume, he wanted to restart working, and it was that was his objective, right, and his goals. Then, as I mentioned, you mentioned where your employment history. Some experts say that you should include first your education. Some others first think that your experience. Most of the time, you include your experience, your work experience first. So I let's keep it like that. Okay. I've seen in other pages that you have to include your education first, but it's more recommendable to include your your employment history. Remember to start from the most recent and go backwards. Finally, you check your education and qualifications. Be sure to write the correct information, to write correctly. Check the spelling here. I made some mistakes here. There are some things that need to be checked. Uh, your studies, if you have any other studies, if you have any other specializations, diplomas, all those things you may have studied after you finish your university courses, your major, you have to include it because it's part of your experience. It's part of what you have done. Well, thank you very much again. I hope to contact you next week. I will try to include maybe more information. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you have a very good weekend. And I hope to see you in our next presentation. All right. So bye for now. Have a good time, and thank you one more time.